that which supports the practice is this state of mind where we're developing spiritual virtue. To be born as a human being doesn't yet necessarily mean we are human. The Buddha didn't determine what a human being is simply on the physical body or appearance, but through the level of the mind, the state of mind. When our minds are caught into unwholesome states, negative states, these are a cause for us to fall to a lower level. The mind falls to a lower level. It's as if taking away that human quality from the mind. Manusa Deva, Manusa Dirachano. Manusa Deva, this word Deva, means one with a wholesome, positive mood, a bright mind, you could say. Jite Sankalite Sukati Patikanka, the mind that is unblemished, undefiled, in a wholesome state, will bring forth a state of happiness without any negative karma bothering that person. But one who falls into negative or unwholesome mind states, that person will not progress in the practice. They will not come to happiness for that. Jite Sankalite Dukkati Patikanka. The unwholesome mind leads necessarily to suffering and woe. So we must see that the mind is the place of practice, the place to practice. We have to learn to look after it, maintain it, keep it clean and supported. Just like a house, if we have a house and we want to live happily in that house, then we have to keep it clean, maintain, look after it. To do this, we have to observe our state of mind closely and carefully. What's it comprised of at any one point? Is the mind focused on negative objects, negative qualities, which will bring it suffering? Negative qualities, in short, mean moods and thoughts of greed, anger and delusion. These all lead to suffering. These are mental states, not physical things, but they lead to suffering as an experience. The Lord Buddha taught that one who watches over their mind closely, follows up on it, will free themselves from Mara. That means free themselves from the unwholesome, that which is dangerous, that which blemishes the mind, or in the way that people of old would say, that which darkens our mind or makes it murky. On the other hand, the bright, radiant mind is a cause for goodness and happiness to arise. This is what we call the mind of merit. And that also has its component factors. So we have to learn to follow up on this mind. Who does that following up? Sati does it, this quality of mindfulness, the knowing. For instance, if you want to learn what is in a body of water, say a pond or a lake, you have to have a means by which you can look down into that murky water and see into it. So you need some kind of a tool, maybe some kind of a periscope or a magnifying lens or some kind of tool that will help you to look into that water and see what's there, to set aside all the mud and dust particles that are hanging, suspended in the water. If we have a means to see through the murkiness or the dust of the mind, this will also help us to free our mind from suffering. So we have to ask ourselves, where does happiness arise in life? It arises through abandoning unwholesome mental states and developing and bringing up wholesome mental states. But sometimes it's hard to see the mind, so we need to find and use these tools, these skillful means. And this practice of sati, knowing from moment to moment, this is a skillful means that leads us on in the practice to know what we are doing at any one time, to know what is the right thing to do at any one time. It's like coming to understand something that you didn't know before, say for instance something like fire. When you come to understand the nature of fire, you can see that yes, it has its harmful side, its dangerous side, but at the same time it has its useful side. We can harness it in many ways to be productive and useful. So we use this quality of mindfulness and clear comprehension in this way to understand the mind better, to know more thoroughly about it. It brings us to free the mind from the delusions that normally cover over it and prevent it from understanding truth. To do this, it requires training and practice. We really have to cultivate, develop ourselves. We need to gain a certain self-belief or self-confidence in our own ability to practice and develop ourselves. This is what we call Tathagata Bodhisattva. It's that confidence or that belief in the potential for this mind to develop spiritual progress towards enlightenment. It's that belief that we can practice and we can experience the results of the practice. At first this might just be in small ways when we're getting started, but still we can have some confidence from those small successes and small insights. Gradually we gain a confidence and an unshakable belief in the value of spiritual virtue and cultivating this through the practice. The Lord Buddha began in just this way. He had the same things as we did, a body and a mind, the body functioning just as ours. We all are limited by this human birth, this human body. None of us can live for more than, say, 100 years. We all have this limitation of time. But the Lord Buddha, even though he had a body and lived and then died just like us, there was a difference in that he did put effort into developing these kind of virtues and spiritual qualities. And he managed, through the development of his own mindfulness and wisdom, to bring the radiant light of insight into his own heart, to illuminate the truth of things. Nati panya samahapa. There's no light as radiant as the light of wisdom. How does this light, this radiance, arise in the mind? Through skillful investigation and development of insight into the truth, which gradually changes one's mind, changes the way one understands things, changes one's outlook and attitudes on things. It brings us to see the harm of attachment to negative states of mind, those moods which cause us suffering, the attachment to all the liking and attraction we have, and the attachment to disliking and aversion. We see that all forms of attachment bring us to suffering. For instance, in the world we experience sometimes praise and sometimes blame from other people, the words of other people. If they scold us or put us down, we tend to feel some kind of suffering. We feel hurt, upset. But if we look more closely and we investigate the truth of this, we can see really this is just an expression, an outward expression of their own suffering. They have their own internal suffering which leads them to speak in this way. It's as if their suffering pushes the words out. If we look at it in this way, then we become a bit like, say, a doctor or a nurse in a hospital looking at a patient in a bed with some severe illness. They're suffering and so they complain and have a negative outlook because they're fearful and worried about the outcome of their illness. But we don't get flustered or ruffled. We're just like that doctor or nurse. We're just looking at it an objective way, in a passive way. We can see that some people have so much suffering that they just have to push it all out. It bursts out just like a volcano sometimes. But when we can see it in an objective way like this, with mindfulness and wisdom, the natural experience in our own mind is one of compassion and understanding and sensitivity. We even come to the point where we think we can see that we want to help them. They need to be helped because they're suffering. So rather than getting angry, we develop a positive attitude at that time. We develop a mind of metta, loving kindness. The Lord Buddha perfected this kind of mind. His mind was full of metta, pure metta, meaning it was metta, unconditional love, not seeking anything in return, not expecting anything in return. He didn't want praise. He didn't want anything from other people. He just saw the value of the Dhamma and wished that people might also receive the light of Dhamma into their own minds. His mind was pure and he could see the danger in samsara. In other words, the danger in attaching to moods of greed, anger and delusion. He could see that any mood of greed, anger or delusion is always going to lead to decline and suffering of the state of mind and the peace and happiness of that person. So he had nothing more to do with such qualities of mind. He left them behind. Because he knew for sure these qualities only lead to suffering. He didn't want to put any more fuel on the fire. He didn't want to build it up. So he abandoned those qualities. Luang our teacher, who established Wat Pah Pong and sacrificed so much in his own practice and in teaching others, he taught very simply that dukkha, suffering, comes because of wanting. If we experience a little dukkha, it's because we're not following our wanting. If we experience the complete extinction of dukkha, it's because we've let go and abandoned our wanting. So we must train ourselves to protect this mind from suffering. As in the sages of old said, look after the water, don't let it go dirty, and the lotus will not go rotten. To do this, we have to see that attachment to the world is like a heavy burden. We have to see that craving, which is a condition for attachment to arise, always leads to suffering. It always leads to states of mind and experiences that are hard to bear with, like a heavy burden. Attachment is a burden. So the Lord Buddha taught us to let go and put down this heavy burden through the practice. At every level of the practice, we're sacrificing and letting go and giving up. Whether it's the practice of dana and generosity, the practice of abhaya-dana, forgiveness, we're putting something down, we're letting go of a sense of self and attachment. We practice self-sacrifice in this way, and it's a cause for our ultimate ease of mind and well-being to arise. So don't attach to things that bring you stress or make you stressed. Don't attach in a way that makes you stressed and unwell. Develop an understanding of the world so that you can free yourself from attachment. To understand it thoroughly, you must know the nature of this world. You must know the nature of your own mind. You must learn how to use this mind properly. Learn how to develop peace of mind. That is, a state of mind that is completely free of danger and harm. Chittang dantang sukhawaham. A well-trained mind brings forth happiness. So whatever our age, background, gender, we have to see that the place for practice is this mind. And we have to see the importance of developing our full potential as a human being. Try to develop the true qualities that make us a human being. Supatipanno, one who practices well. That is, one who really sees the benefit of practice and what they have to do to develop that which is beneficial. Ujjapatipanno, one who practices directly or straightly, meaning one who sees directly to the truth. They have clarity of insight. Nyayapatipanno, one who practices with insight. They have insight into the danger of attachment. They see the harm, that which is harmful in this world. Samicipatipanno, one who practices appropriately, meaning that based on this insight, this understanding, they train themselves to develop wholesome karma through body, speech and mind. They see that all our actions, our speech and our mental activity are the fountain for wholesome karma to arise. It comes through understanding truth. As we understand the truth, it brings us to our experience this complete value of being a human being. One like that expresses it through their behavior and their attitudes. It brings that person to experience that which is truly auspicious in life, a mind that is free from any kind of bias, free from selfishness and aversion. They come to see all other people as if friends or relatives in the Dhamma, because we're all subject to the same suffering of aging, sickness and death, separation from all we love and like. Whatever the era, the period in the world's history, every being who is born into the world must experience and suffer these same truths. Wherever there's gain, there's loss. Wherever there's happiness, there's also suffering. But we are learning to see beyond these experiences, to see the deeper truth of nature. So I've come here today to share with you some teachings on this, to give you some help and advice in the practice so that you can develop your own practice and be independent from suffering and its causes. I give this out of metta, out of kindness and compassion. And I can see you are listening with metta, with a mind of kindness and compassion. The Dhamma is like a light which helps us to end all conflict in our own minds and in society. So today I have nothing more to offer you than this advice as to live as fully as you can as a human being, to realize the full potential of this human birth, this human life. So I give you I'd like to express my appreciation for all the good that you have done and will do. In your own lives, may you all find true happiness. May you be successful in all your activities and the work that you have to do. May you be free from illness and harm. May you have a mind perfected in virtue and loving kindness.